We've anchored this corner here since 1886 was the first Times building down here. So this has been the heart of classic downtown for a very, very long time. I always thought I would retire and then the building would be here and I'd pass by it. And now I'm leaving and the building's staying. I've been here 40 years, so this has meant a lot to me. This is the last waltz. It could get emotional. These are all old employees here from the glory era. All right, guys, let us assemble. Come on over. Come on in, come on in. I've been working here 40 years, which means I started when I was 4. Welcome, guys. Let's go through history. This is where we're standing, First and Spring. This is the site of the Nadeau Hotel, the first front page. $5 to put your carriage there, people. In 1881, that's a lot of money. Number 10 Spring. No north, no south, no east, no west. No electricity in LA. This was produced on a press powered by water from the LA River. And who was taking care of the ditches called zanjas, a zanjero, with a shovel, who was William Mulholland. Let's point out a couple of cool places on the map. Olvera Street, Alameda, Sunset Boulevard, the first Ralph's. So, first publisher or editor or owner was General Otis, a real Civil War general, fought at the bloodiest day in American history, which was the Battle of Antietam. He promoted the heck out of the city and the region. Thousands of copies would go back east. Come to California. We need more people. We need a larger tax base. Look at the Rose Parade of 1900. Look at this dirt road that is Colorado Boulevard, and the floats now cost millions. Look at the San Fernando Valley. That's the valley, people. There is nothing out there. Who's that? Harry Chandler, likely the most powerful individual in Southern Cal history. Began to deliver the Times, and oh, by the way, married the general's daughter and became head of circulation. Look at him in his car right across the street. And look, there's the circulation department. That's a one-cylinder Oldsmobile, by the way. So Harry Chandler amasses great wealth, great power. Norman Chandler comes in for his dad. His wife, Dorothy Chandler. Most powerful woman, arguably, in Southern Cal history. Got that music center built. The best thing Norman and Dorothy ever did was get their son Otis Chandler into the publisher's office. Our hero. Unproven, untested. A wild choice, most known for being a shot putter up at Stanford. Norman and Dorothy say, oh, you're going to make him head of the paper, the Times? Well, he had a long apprenticeship. He worked in every department. He loved working in the press room. Sat his men down, yeah, it was all men, and said, guys, we want a good paper. When Otis Chandler began as publisher when he was 32, we had 2 bureaus, London and New York. And when he left, we had 42. Let's talk about the evolution of the Times buildings. Talking about this incredible structure we are in right now. In 1881, this was the Times building over there by Olvera Street. In the basement of that building was a water-powered press. Now, we moved over to that corner, First and Broadway. Here's Broadway and First, dirt roads, 1886. And then in 1910, what happened? Who knows? Times is blown up. This is an amazing graphic done by the incredible artist Charles Owens. It shows you before, during, and after in one static view. Here is the bomber, James McNamara, planting the bomb. The bomb is planted in the building, in this alley, near a gas main and tons of flammable ink. And Harry Chandler's office is there. Otis and General Otis's office, and it was intended to behead the Times executive team. If they were there, they would have been vaporized. When that thing goes off, the ink explodes, a gas main keeps feeding the flames. The center of the building is pulverized because the explosion is inside to the out, and the eagle somehow made it, and that's over there. Third building is built on the side of the second. Beautiful sandstone Victorian thing. Look at that. Look at that thing, the castle. But it's torn down because it is Victorian. Look at that guy. He's just got a rope tied around his waist. So Harry Chandler now has a chance, since he's assumed power. In the Great Depression, Harry allots $4 million to have this place built. I'm going to hire Gordon Kaufman. Anybody know who he was? Times Building, Santa Anita Racetrack, Athenaeum at Caltech, Hoover Dam. It's overbuilt because Harry was there on the scene of the bombing and said they will never blow us up again. The old veterans I recall from the old days would say, you know, if there's any trouble at all, go to the Times Building. Now, why are we moving? Because we don't own the place. It was sold. It is owned by a company called Omni. Let's look at the Linotype Machine. Come on, let's look at something funner. A lot of people look at this when they walk in their door and they say, wow, an old press is in the lobby of the Times. This is not an old press. The Linotype Machine made what? A line of type. A line of type. These were used till 1974 at the Times. These were invented by Ottmar Mergenthaler, German immigrant back during the industrial age. I call that the cotton gin for the print industry. You got your copy. You put on your visor, you lit up a stogie. They all smoked cigars.
You were male.
They were all male. Anyway, there's a hot lead kept in the cauldron here. So let's say your editor sent you a little piece of copy. Maybe it was cut and pasted together. The molds line up, hot lead goes in, and then eventually that line pops out here. And once it cooled down, you could then put it in there. So imagine, guys, we had an afternoon paper. Anybody remember the late final? Yes. Hit the streets at 2:30. Lynn, you remember going to get fresh papers from the mailroom?
Yes, I do.
Julie, 50 a bundle, 80 pages, kind of heavy. So imagine updating the New York stocks, guys, in lead. Come on out, let's look at this grand Art Deco. This is not just Art Deco, this is high Art Deco. Hugo Ballin was hired. He was an artist, a muralist, a novelist, a silent film director. Hung out with people like John Ford. Look at the car. They were thinking ahead. Look at the guy with the light bulb. He represents electricity. Look at the smoking factory. That wouldn't fly today, but you gotta remember, this is the height of the Great Depression. That's good news. We all remember our fourth grade California mission history. Who's that guy on the right? Oh, he's way higher than Junipero Serra. He is, anybody Catholic here? That is Saint Sarah. We have a California saint, people. The Pope canonized Father Sarah. Native Americans perhaps were not happy about that because they perished by the thousands under the mission system. Look at over there. There's the news business of the 1930s. The gods of news at the top left. The editor, the reporter. In the center, those departments are gone or digital. You might remember that big Spartan camera on the right, 4 feet wide practically. And then the hands of the readers. Maybe we should put an iPhone up there. Let us now talk about the globe. You might remember in 1981 we celebrated our 100th birthday, and I have a personal connection to the globe because I helped lift it into place and we almost dropped it. There were 4 of us here. It was probably about midnight. And we put it together and took off the frame and we stepped here and we went, whoa! Will it be going? It's an open question. I'm split on it. I'll be very honest. I think it fits here. I think it belongs here, but it is not protected here. There is no historic designation to the building. What will happen to it is unknown. There are the astrological signs. There's winged Mercury up there. Those are islands. So many people ask, what are those dots? People used to say, oh, those are Times bureaus. No, those are just bolts. We're standing on a quote from Shakespeare, Antony and Cleopatra. His reared arm crested the world. His voice was property to all the tuned spears. Let us get baffled looking at that side panel. And you are really good if you know who that guy with the funny hat is. No guesses? Let me give you a few clues. Rancho Santa Monica, Rancho San Pedro, Rancho La Cienega, Rancho Dominguez, Rancho Los Cerritos, Rancho Verdugo, Rancho San Gabriel. That's a rancho owner called a Californio. When the missions broke up, the King of Spain said, dude, take this valley. You have been loyal to me. And dude said, thank you, my king. I will call this Rancho San Fernando. And look at this little memorial. Tom Trainer in 1944 was covering the fighting over in northern France. Some of you may have been to the D-Day beaches, the Bocage, the Normandy area. He was covering that incredible fighting in the hedgerows. Eventually it breaks up on August 20th, 1944. On August 19th, though, Trainer's in a Jeep and he's run over by a tank, an American tank. Joe Morris in 1979 was covering the taking of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, and he was at a window. He was hit by a sniper. Dal Torgerson in Honduras was hit by an RPG and drove over a mine. Ruben Salazar, you might remember, leading Chicano journalist of this era. He was covering the Chicano moratorium. It becomes a full-blown riot. He gets tear gas in his eyes. He goes to the Silver Dollar Bar, this little divey place. He's having a beer. He's relaxing. Sheriff's deputy comes along with his tear gas gun. He doesn't clear the place verbally, which is a violation of policy, and he shoots into the bar with a wall-penetrating grenade. It hits Ruben right in the head. All right, let us look at one last thing, this incredible motto. The newspaper is a greater treasure to the people than uncounted millions of gold. There is no dimming, no effacement here. Each new pulsation keeps the record clear. All right, let's go look at the eagle.
I know this from the old tour guide days. Boots and Portland, who also did Mount Rushmore. Very good.
Wrong. No, I'm kidding. Also did Stone Mountain in Georgia, but never finished. This was on top of the Times buildings. It was painted gold. Everybody could see the Times Eagle in LA, not because it was gold, but because there were no buildings higher than 3 or 4 stories. It survived the bombing. This is the bomb building, and that's the entranceway of Ink Alley, into which Mr. McNamara planted the bomb. There is the eagle. Third building, bigger, better, and then in 1934 we come here. Now there's something that you guys have not seen, and you're welcome to go in and take a look at the phone booth. And in the next booth, the one on the right, is a special long-distance phone from the 1930s. And I'll tell you very quickly what happened. I used to take people in there and it was empty. And this woman said, I got a phone for you. And I said, come on. You know, I'm thinking she's got a 1980s phone. She said, no, it's old. I said, how old? 1930s. And I said, does it work? She said, well, actually, I'm using it. If you have a nickel or dime, drop it in, you'll hear that ding from your youth. And I'll collect it and use it for lunch money. But please do take a look. About 6 people can fit in there at a time. This is where I introduce people to the serious side of the business. Public service, we may see Ruben walking around. There's Bettina and Julie. Barbara Davidson is left, but she did great work. How about that little girl? She's grown up, she's fine, even though she was hit 3 times. This was the school takeover in Russia by the Chechens. They rigged the gym with explosives, put the kids in there, and the thing blew up. There's some people here you might know. Well, it's the big reunion tour. Back. Way back. This is the way back tour. This is now digital, newer workstations you can see. City desk is now here. There's Hector Becerra, first Latino city editor of the LA Times. Roosevelt High Rough Rider. Anybody from Garfield? Garfield! Bulldogs! If you're not from the business, it oftentimes surprises you how quiet it is, because we've all grown up with TV and movies. Well, we're going to mosey. Editorial stretches all the way down the second. Halfway down would be Steve Lopez's office. It's kind of a central point in what they call Baja Metro. This is Northern Metro, right? So that's Baja Metro. Editors are in these interior offices, so the one over there on that corner is current editor-in-chief Jim Kirk. This is not a standard tour. This is kind of a horde walking through the halls. But it's fun to see the old faces. It's good to see that they're still around and doing okay. It's bittersweet, though. It is definitely bittersweet because they are reminders of the glory era and of the power and influence the Times had. But I got to emphasize again, it wasn't the kind of influence that was negative. I see it as very positive influences on LA and its society and its life and its culture and its humanity. We'll walk over toward Photo, past the old wire room. So this is the crossing over from the Kaufman building to the middle building, this joint right here. Mo, this was the wire room. And there'd be a little flyer for Fear and Loathing. None of us remembers George Watson because he dates back to the teens and 20s. And glass plates. So imagine running around getting shots like that. This is a disappointing thing for me. I have to explain to kids what flash bulbs do. Famous speed graphic, 1930s, 40s, 50s, into the 60s. You might remember wire photo machines, dark rooms.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember seeing a motorcycle courier on Oscar night come running down the hall with a big bag of film. It's an amazing story. We've got a young guy named Marcus Yam. He goes up to Kern County where these fires are burning and he starts to take pictures of this ranch. The rancher comes out and he's totally mad at Marcus. It's his life's work blowing up. But then, and listen to the letter. Dear Marcus Yam, I stood a few feet from you when you took this picture of my home. I thought to myself, another vulture sensationalizing on people's misery. After seeing your photographs and looking at your portfolio, I was wrong. You portray human emotion without all the makeup and glamour. You have my respect. My home withstood the test that night and old glory still waves. Today I replace that tattered flag with a new and shiny one. I would like you to take care of the old flag for me. Well, Carolyn Cole is just amazing. She goes to Bethlehem to the Church of the Nativity. It's occupied by the PLO, and she sneaks in to take pictures. She spent 9 days in there, no food. She lost 25 pounds. She had a half-dead camera battery. She took it out after each shot to save power. Then she gave her memory card to somebody else because she knew when she stepped out she'd be searched. Don Bartletti is retired, took his Pulitzer for doing that incredible Enrique's Journey work. Longest story in Times history, written and researched by Sonia Nazario, personally edited by Jan Carroll, the editor. Sonia described the journey of this kid named Enrique. He traveled thousands of miles to find his mom. He was only 9 years old. Rick Loomis, Happy fella. He's left the paper. He's gone on somewhere else. An original embed with the U.S. troops when we invaded Iraq. Come on down. Come on down. You can come down here. You can come down here. I wanted to look here at two of my favorite photos of all time. Carolyn Cole's great shot from Hurricane Katrina's aftermath. 10 years later, we caught up with this kid. He's a teenager. He's doing fine. I don't know about his bear. Jury's out on this fella. You might remember this shot. It's been called the Marlboro Marine. It's actually pretty serious, though. Luis Cinco got this shot in Fallujah, Iraq, after an all-night battle. Miller was so stressed, he didn't know Luis was taking his picture. This is a little unusual. It's shot on film. That's unusual. Irfan Khan got this great shot down in Huntington Beach. You might remember when 30 Trump protesters blocked the way of 300 Trump supporters. Put himself right in the middle of this melee. If you're a sports fan, you'll recognize Around the Horn with Bill Plaschke. Here we go. So this is the High Mucky Muck editorial board meeting room. And around the table sits the editorial board, and this is where they hash it out. They did some earthquake retrofitting in the Mirror building, which we are in right now. That is the new connector train station. And they have tunneled from Little Tokyo to here at 2nd and Spring, and it's going through Bunker Hill right now. That's Jim Murray. If you remember Jim Murray, the great, incredible Jim Murray. That's his typewriter he carried around the world. Let's go down to food. Come on up. Here is our Fantastico test kitchen. Donna Dean, the California Cookbook, Chasing Chili, all those great things. Times Test Kitchen, guys, if you didn't know, is one of two in the United States. The only other is at the Chicago Trib. It's small, part-time. This is a veteran reporter's desk. You might remember going to the library and getting some clips. We didn't click and save, we clipped and saved. This is a fraction of what we amassed, from 35 till 87. Does it take you back? Back. Let's look up Captain Beyond. What? You may remember John Gaunt's great seaside tragedy shot. If you've been to the museum in Washington, D.C., we are very represented there. Carolyn Cole, Don Bartletti, and this great shot by John Gaunt. It was the first photo to win a Pulitzer Prize for the Times way back in the mid-50s. It's a terrible thing because they lost their kid in the surf at Hermosa. The great Bill Toohey in Vietnam. The great Paul Conrad. The great
49ers.
Jim Murray. The great David Shaw. The great Carolyn Cole. Can this be the final waltz? The last dance? The final tour? Can it be? Come on down. The first individual Pulitzer to be won by a woman, Sonia Nazario, 2003, for Enrique's Journey. Dan Neal, the car critic. Happy guy, he got a new car to drive every week. And now the women have taken over. Diana covering the drought. Mary, great TV critic and now calendar editor. Barbara Davidson, great photography. Bettina and Julie, tough news types. Usha McFarlane, extended long-term stories. Kim Murphy, the correspondent and editor. The gold medals, the extra special public service Pulitzer. I think we have. Someone told me that. I can't believe this is the last time I'm doing this. Well, guys, If you need to leave, thank you very much for coming. You can just hit the down button. Some of these times people are going to stay here for hours reminiscing, so you don't have to stay. Thanks for coming. All right, enjoy the books, huh? All right.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
All right, take care, huh? All right, bye.
Thank you. See you in El Segundo.
Yeah. Hey, good to see you again, man. All right. Thanks for coming.
Harry Chandler Pavilion still up there?
It's up there, but it's bare. Even the circular desk is gone. We just finished the last tour of the Times, and it was a great tour. It was a little loose because we had a lot of ex-Times people following along, and they were running into old friends. And this has actually been happening for several weeks. Photographers, reporters, editors have been coming back, and even business departments like advertising and marketing. It's been a wonderful thing seeing friends again, and seeing them see their friends again. And a lot of people here have worked very hard together. People have worked on long-term projects. People have been under great stress. People have been in war zones and riot zones. And then you may have teamed up with people and you've won a Pulitzer or some other journalism award. So it was a really good thing to see. And it was a good note to end on. So as a person who is from Los Angeles, to work at this institution, it's been something. It's really been something. And my high school English teacher at Belmont High, Vivian Lafont, would say, never use that word, something. It means you're not being specific. It means you haven't thought enough about finding the right word. I'm sorry, Mrs. Lafont, this has really been something.